Alright, so Blizzard has released their Elemental Shaman and Restoration Shaman changes. This video, I'm going to be going over Elemental Shaman specifically. So we're going to get right into it in just a moment. I'm going to go over the very important things that have changed, the notable things, and then afterwards I'll do a bit of a rambling and theory crafting with like talents and talk about those individual things. So, to get right into it, first off, the very top of the tree, you have a choice between Earth Shock and Elemental Blast. No Elemental Blast down here. You save a talent point. You pick which one you want. Plain and simple. The next thing, Earthquake. Now, this new choice node, the right is the old Earthquake, the left is the new Earthquake. The only difference, the left one lets you drop it at the target. So, for example, I can just go and let me cast some spells. Let's get right into it. Look at this. My cursor's up here, left. Boom. Dropped Earthquake. Dropped it under the target. That's awesome. Great change. People are excited about that. And so am I. So the next big thing is Ice Fury. Unfortunately, it is still here, but it was moved over to the left side. It used to be in the middle, and now it also is a proc. Your Lava Burst has a chance to replace your next Frost Shock with Ice Fury. So your Frost Shock button is going to turn into Ice Fury when it procs. You use the Ice Fury, and then it goes back to Frost Shock, and you can use it normally. So you don't need an extra button for that. Primordial Wave is also still here. It's over to the right, and it's been nerfed a bit. We'll talk about that later, but it is still here. I know people don't like it. Now, there is a mastery change. The new mastery, you get a passive damage, and you still get the elemental overload chance, but the overload itself does 35% of the normal damage instead of like 85 or 88 or whatever it used to be. So that's going to be a big nerf for the amount of damage that overload does, but it's probably going to be a little more consistent because your overall damage will increase. Now, the last big thing is that shamans are getting a raid buff. It's called Sky Fury. This talent, this tooltip is not accurate right now. It is not accurate. The Sky Fury raid buff is going to last an hour. You cast it, it lasts an hour in your whole party of raid. It increases each person's mastery by 2%. And it also causes 20% of their auto attacks have a chance to win Fury and proc more attacks. So, shamans are getting a raid buff. Alright, well, that's about all the really important, notable stuff. So, if that's all you're into, you can click off now. Otherwise, I'm going to spend like 10 minutes, go deep dive, talk about all the different things and builds and stuff like that. So, the big important thing is, will this change this whole rework, because there's a bunch of new talents, will all of this change the way that elemental shamans are played? Overall, no. And I'll talk about that more. Fire builds are pretty much exactly the same with one difference. You're probably going to have Ascendance again. Ascendance is no longer a choice node with the Ascendance proc, so you can get both. And Ascendance also has a choice node for reduced cooldown, or 25% haste while active and 3-second extra duration. This does work with Deeply Rooted Elements proc. You will get the 25% haste. Overall, this will change things up a little bit. I'll get to that in a few minutes. For fire builds, it's pretty much going to be the same because you still have Primordial Wave, you do all that, but you just have Ascendance now, most likely, and maybe not Ice Fury because it's over to the side and you don't need to take it. For lightning builds, it's pretty much going to be the same. Overall, again, you're not really changing all that much, but you can see the talent tree. Here's the old tree, and here's the new one, and I'll go back to the old one right now, and here's the new one again. So it does look different. There are a lot of new connections, a lot of new talents. Over on the class side, there are new things like Stone Bulwark Totem. You can drop to give yourself a damage shield. There's Seasoned Winds. You can interrupt and you take reduced damage from that spell school for 18 seconds. There are other things like Gust of Wind is up here now, and it's 20 seconds by default. You no longer need to spec into the cooldown reduction talents. So overall, you're going to get a little more utility and stuff out of this. 30% increased weapon abuse. You can reduce the cooldown of your totems. There's a little more options. I didn't even spec into like Hex or anything, Purge. So there's still stuff like that. Wind Rush totems over here. You can still grab Earth Grab. So there are some changes, but overall, it's relatively the same. It's not going to change the way you play. For the elemental tree itself, it's more the same. There's kind of new stuff where while your elementals are active, you deal more damage like that. There's the flame shock cooldown reduction. There's still Primordial Wave Splintered Elements. There's no longer do you have the Primordial Wave talent that reduces the cooldown for every lava burst. So it's always going to be a 30-second cooldown now in Primordial Wave. You can't reduce that. Earthen Rage is back. Those are little rocks that form passively and just pelt your target. So that's cool. Nice little nice little damage boost. Plus, it kind of looks cool. Flame Shock can generate Maelstrom. When your Storm or Fire Elemental expires, it leaves a smaller one around. This is the one where you get reduce the cooldown of Fire and Storm Elemental whenever your Flame Shock damage crits. Whenever you activate Stormkeeper, you get a powerful Lightning Elemental to fight by your side. There are things here for lightning builds. When you cast them, you can get extra thunder strikes, so a little extra passive damage. When lightning shields damage or nature damage is increased. Your chain lightning or lightning bolts after casting a spender have a lot of reduced cast time, so there can be a lot of cool stuff there. So there are a lot of changes. The Ice Fury, for example, the splintered shocks or whatever it's called, where it made it hit like 4 targets and increase the damage they take from nature spells, that's gone. Ice Fury is now pure single target now. However, this whole left side of the tree, these like 4 talents here, these are all kind of hybrid things. You have your Ice Fury that needs Lava Burst to proc it. After casting Ice Fury, when you cast Nature and Fire spells, you cast Elemental Blast, so more hybrid stuff. Casting Frost Shock or Ice Fury increases damage of next Lava Burst. You can weave Frost Shocks and Lava Burst still. So a lot of stuff like that hybrid. Elemental Equilibrium is over here. We had this before. So a lot of that stuff synergizes with Elemental Blast, having different types of things, maybe weaving spells in and out. So that's there. The Lightning's a little more on the left side and middle, and the Fire's on the right. So it's a little bit easier to mix these two. And the big problem that I always had with Elemental Shaman in Mythic Plus was this. You're either a full single target build or a full AoE build. There wasn't really a hybrid. There were no like hybrid builds for Mythic Plus. It just didn't work with the way the talent tree was. Now, if you went a full single target build in Mythic Plus, like, oh, it's tyrannical, I want to be single target. Well, guess what? You're not really doing any damage in AoE like at all, because you have to. The way the talent tree was set up is like you had all your tools for single target, and you don't get any AoE talents if you're single target build. And then if you're AoE build, you like lose so much single target. So it's very frustrating, in my opinion, because to do damage in Mythic Plus, you have to go the AoE build. Otherwise, you do next to no damage on Trash, even on Tyrannical Week. And your overall damage in the dungeon is going to be like equal to the tanks, and it's terrible. It feels bad. You feel like you're letting your group down. So you have to go the AoE build with stuff like Liquid Magma Totem. In the past, Liquid Magma Totem and the AoE talents, it kind of caused you to lose a lot of single target damage and mobility of your spells. So it really sucked on bosses, especially when you had to do this on Tyrannical Weeks. You just have a long boss and you don't really have any spells to cast while moving that are like substantial, and you're just kind of stuck there. So I will say that this playstyle with Primordial Wave, setting up Flame Shocks with that, and with Surge of Power and Liquid Magma Totem, and having the cooldown reduction, or resetting the cooldown of Liquid Magma Totem, and doing that on every pack to like have all these setups, that playstyle, if you're playing a fire build, is still here. Some people might not like that. It might be in a little more clunky now because your Primordial Wave is a 30-second cooldown. It cannot be lowered. If anyone who played the fire build in season 3 and 4, there were so many lava bursts going off with the other talent that like every lava burst would reduce the cooldown of Primordial Wave by like 0.5 seconds, and you could have like a 10-second cooldown Primordial Wave. You always have it up, you always get the haste buff, and you're just blasting. We're losing that. We don't have that anymore. We're also losing synergy with their season 3 and 4 tier set bonuses. So this build, the Wildfire Bushfire Mythic Plus build, might not really be a thing. It's also still very clunky. I don't like that. The Flame Shock being forced with Liquid Magma Totem and all this stuff to set up your damage, it's so many globals, it's really annoying. You can't have it for every pack unless you play perfectly, because you have Totemic Recall and this have a cooldown, and this, like, you have to play perfectly to do damage, and even then, when you play it perfectly, you're not even coming close to other classes' AoE damage. So it's kind of frustrating that's still there. It just feels clunky that the Liquid Magma Totem also has the Flame Shock, kind of applying and spreading Flame Shock, stuff like that. I don't like that because you're not really getting benefit out of the damage portion of this ability. It's just all a setup, and it's just very annoying. However, for this build, you can easily get that by like removing this thing. You don't need an extra lightning elemental with Stormkeeper for fire build. Notice something different? You have Liquid Magma Totem, you kind of have all your AoE set up, but you can still get Ascendance because you have extra points, because they removed a lot of the extra bullcrap that we don't need. So now you can have Ascendance. So Ascendance can be very useful on single target and on AoE pulls. Obviously, you want to time it, you want to make sure it's up for a boss as well, but For bosses, you can have Ascendants where you can just spam Lava Burst. So this can actually solve a lot of your single target damage problems, even when you're kind of going this AoE type setup. Obviously, you would, maybe get something like this instead. But yeah, the point stands is that you have something that you can use that'll actually give you some strong single target damage. So it'll need to be tested and theory crafted and all that stuff. This is just first impressions. It seems like there might be some sort of hybrid type build that overall you're maybe only changing like 1 or 2 points and you're not really losing too much and you're gaining a lot for AoE. So that could be very good for the fire build. Now let's talk about the lightning build. Now the lightning build is again more of the same. I do want to point that Mountains Will Fall is over here now. It used to be like right here. Now Mountains Will Fall, the one that causes your elemental overloads from your finishers, this is heavily nerfed because your mastery only deals 35% of the normal damage when it does proc. And early on in the expansion, you're going to have a low percentage of mastery. So this talent is going to be not very valuable compared to what it used to be. This is, but you do need it to pick up Echoes of Great Sundering if this is even something that's worth taking, because this 2 points, maybe you go elsewhere. Something else to keep in mind with the lightning build. Yes, it's kind of like the same. You kind of have lightning rod, you have stormkeeper, but lightning builds, especially in Mythic Plus, might also still go for this kind of fire AoE package. And here's why. You get this package, you're not doing it for the damage, you're doing it to get a Splintered Elements buff. Because if you're casting your Flame Shock, your Primordial Wave, your Liquid Magma Totem, you cast your one Lava Burst, boom. You have about 40% of a haste buff for 12 seconds. That can be massive. Then you're just spamming Chain Lightnings and Earthquakes and all this kind of stuff. You're getting your Tempest. You have, when Tempest strikes more than one target, your next 3 Chain Lightning spells are instant, deal increased damage. So with like 40% haste in these Mythic Plus packs, this could be really good. Again, the Fire build would do this for damage, but the Lightning build could do this just for the buff, because it is a 3-point talent, package instead of getting the Elemental package where you get the extra Elemental or, a little bit reduced cooldown and the Primal Elemental, the powerful one that you can control. This might not be that great. Maybe you do this. Also, in Mythic Plus, you might actually get an Ascendance package as well for a Lightning build. It is completely possible, because maybe it is strong enough that for single target you need that help and Ascendance is strong enough. Because lightning builds historically are not that great for single target. They do a lot with lightning rod and AoE. So we'll have to see. Again, maybe these builds also incorporate some sort of Ice Fury package in here to kind of, mix things up and do a hybrid build. I'm not really sure. It's tough to say. So overall though, things are relatively similar. You're not getting a massive difference in the way that shamans are played. So for those that are looking for like a substantial rework, this isn't really it. None of the new talents really changed the way you play. However, it's kind of the pathing and the reduction in points and removal of some things here and there that change things up. Like I said, the fire build gets Ascendance, but they lose the cooldown reduction aspect of Primordial Wave. Overall, this is probably fine. I know some people don't like Ascendance. I mean, all fire builds really are is just you spamming Lava Burst. So some people like that, some people don't. It seems like it'll be better in the expansion, at least with these changes. Important to note, they did also say, where's my thing here? I have a thing, my shamans. There is a whole shaman post I will link about all of Resto, Enhance, and Elemental changes from Blizzard, so I will post that as well in the description below. But keep in mind, they did say that there are additional changes coming in a War Within patch for shamans. So this is kind of like an initial batch of changes, and then they might be doing like, remember in Dragonflight they did that whole Shadow Priest rework in like one of the .1 patches or something where they did like a massive overhaul of a lot of the stuff. That might be coming for Elemental Shaman. So they said there's a lot more stuff coming, a big rework still. This is just kind of the initial wave. Maybe there'll be more stuff, but what do you guys think? Let me know. Overall, it's cool that maybe they're changing up the way that the AoE and single target builds work, because outside of a couple of the quality of life things with the earthquakes and kind of adjusting the trees, that's kind of the big thing for me. Is I want to not feel horribly gimped because I win an AoE build when I'm fighting a boss, or I can fight a boss and feel good but then still have some AoE tools for trash that actually deal damage. Not me only spamming chain lightning and earthquake and doing less damage in the tank, because let's that's happened. If you've tried to do a single target build in Mythic Plus in Dragonflight, that's what happens. You do less damage in the tank on trash pools. It looks terrible. So, anyways, that's all I have for you guys. I appreciate y'all watching. What do you think about the shaman changes? What needs to be done? Because I think there still needs to be more work. Overall, it's like a step in the right direction, but they need to make sure that the overall hybrids and stuff will work. That's the big thing that I'm worried about. But until next time, I will talk to y'all later. Goodbye.